and I'm bringing in what may appear an extraneous point, but I think is very crucial. We have no trust in the Chinese now, after April 2020.
That has gone out of the window.
Out of the window. We can't trust them if they promise things also, even Xi Jinping.
Yes.
So, they'll have to do something substantive, which we can see, and then move forward.
You're on StratNewsGlobal. I'm Nitin Gokhale. Less than 2 weeks from now, Prime Minister Modi will be at Kazan in Russia for the Brics summit of leaders. The summit, of course, is important, but what everyone in the strategic circles across the world are looking at are probably his two bilateral meetings, one with President Putin of Russia and the other with, more importantly, with President Xi Jinping of China. Whether that happens or not, we are not sure, but President Putin's meeting is going to happen. But that apart, of late, in the past couple of months, there has been some movement in India-China Cold War, if you want to call it that, or the standoff that has happened in Ladakh, and where both sides are indicating that officials are speaking, but the Chinese seem to be more eager to restart normalization of the ties, whether India is doing it, whether India should do it, and what should be India's position going forward. To answer all those questions in a possible manner going forward over the next fortnight or so, what should happen is Jayadeva Ranade, a familiar face on StratNewsGlobal, China specialist, has lived all his professional life studying China. So, welcome to this program, first of all. But let me start by asking, where do you see India-China relations right now?
Thank you, Nitin, and for inviting me at this time. I think India-China relations are frozen at the moment. I guess the positions have been clearly drawn. We have said that unless the Chinese restore the status quo, there is no question of normalization of the relationship as it was earlier. The Chinese are insistent thus far on pushing for normalization without really withdrawing or pulling back at the border. So that's the position at the moment. I think, frankly, if I can just indulge in a bit of this thing, sort of assessment.
Right.
I think the Chinese are also hurting for two reasons. One, it is costing them, not financially, but in terms of rotation of their troops and deploying them there, they're not used to it. And their conscripts, keep changing every 2 years. So bringing them there is a problem for them.
Yes.
Our guys are more battle hardened.
Right.
Secondly, the Western markets, particularly the US and Europe, which are the wealthy markets on which the Chinese are dependent.
For their economy.
They are an export-led economy. They are closing off. And Chinese exports to them dropped by around 31%, maybe more now.
Sure.
Chinese economy is doing very badly. Only 3 provinces in China have met their targets, revenue targets. The rest are all slumped. The people are, they're facing a lot of hardship. So Xi Jinping, despite having said that we should not waste money, quote, waste money on all this, they have given living allowances now to people in a number of provinces. So with all that, they're pushing very hard for access to the Indian market.
Which is big.
Which is huge. It's the largest untapped market in the world, I would say. And they fear, correctly so, that we are trying to close off the market to them, at least in certain sectors. So that is the situation. And because of that, maybe, therefore we are getting all these signals that, there may be a conciliatory attitude by the Chinese. But having said that, let me also hasten to add that on the ground, I see nothing.
Right. No change.
No change, there's no de-induction, there's no de-escalation, nothing of the sort. In fact,
and the last disengagement took place in September 2022.
And also, all the reports that we get, and I do follow,
That's an
quite
understatement.
closely.
But
They're in fact bringing in more people. They're reinforcing the number of troops. They're bringing in more, equipment, etc.
right.
So I think it is a move the Chinese would probably take the first step, or at least give a more solid indication to our people.
Okay. So having said that, let's talk a little bit about the, not a new Chinese ambassador, but a 6-month-old or 7-month-old in the chair. He's been making statements, writing articles in the newspapers, Indian media, also talking about ancient civilizational ties and how we should work together. All that he's doing, and how Chinese technology can help EV market in India, all that. Now clearly he's been given a brief to make these noises. How seriously should one take these? Because he is not clearly a decision maker. I mean, you know the system better than anybody else. So what's behind all this?
I think he's pushing, as you rightly said, the official Chinese line.
Right.
He has been tasked to do it. And if you look at his, from the day he came, in fact, just slightly before he came, this is the message that the Chinese missions in India have started putting out. But after he came, there has been increased activity in this area. So you find him talking about ancient civilization, etc. But more than that, he's pushing for normalization of ties. He's trying to say that the Chinese economy is doing well, which it is not. He's trying to tell our businessmen, etc., to come to China and visit, things like this. But what I notice is that the Chinese missions in Calcutta and Mumbai particularly, they are targeting educational institutions and the business lobbies respectively. And of course the diplomatic mission here is also quite active. So they are functioning at a number of levels and trying to create lobbies of Chinese influence inside India, which is something we need to be watchful about.
Their influence operation is always very, very big.
And they're trying to do that. So obviously they're using all the means, and he seems to be taking a lead in that, unlike his predecessor.
Right. Now, coming to the official discussions between Indian interlocutors and Chinese interlocutors, so there have been 21 rounds, 22 rounds of the Corps Commander level meeting at the military level. Also WMCC has met number of times. The last meeting of WMCC, there was a slight change in tone on either side. That is, India said that now, not really WMCC, but the meeting between NSA, Ajit Doval and Wang Yi on the Chinese side, where the Indian statement said that they have agreed to discuss the remaining points of friction, that is namely Depsang and Demchok. They didn't name the two places. And the Chinese didn't contest it, or their statement, of course, was very flowery as usual, going in circles. But what do you make of that particular official statements that have come?
I went through the readouts actually, the Chinese readout and ours. And there is certainly a difference between the two. I found ours more guarded. Chinese, of course, were saying that India has turned over a new leaf and taken a strategic view of things. I think they were exaggerating it.
Right.
And in the typical Chinese style, trying to dissimulate that India is now seeking to mend relationships, and that was my reading.
Exact opposite.
Which is exact opposite. And our statement was much more circumspect and careful. So I think, while this talk of we have to tackle the remaining areas, that has been there right from the beginning. I mean, since April 2020, you look at all the statements, if they have not specifically mentioned places, but they've said, and we will continue to talk and we will continue to resolve. So I don't look at it as anything,
breakthrough moment.
As any breakthrough. But certainly it's the mechanism that we have, that we are trying to see that there is peace at the border, and we'll try and resolve it over time if necessary. So we've shown we can wait it.
It has happened in the past that you waited 6, 7, 10 years.
Even Doklam, if you want to see.
Right, like
so
that.
We can wait it out.
We can wait it out. But that brings me to this whole point about the expectation, or there was some a small period where people started talking about how both sides are turning a new leaf. Just talking about talking between the two sides. Is there a case to take this dialogue at a higher level now?
What do you
between
mean?
the two sides? Right now, they are middle level officials who are speaking.
Okay.
Could it be a political come higher level, say a foreign minister's level, or the with that mechanism of special representatives? Do you think that is doable?
Well, I'll answer your question in two parts.
Sure.
Firstly, when you talked about this, that there has been speculation that things are, I mean, something may happen, kind of thing. It was actually a Chinese sponsored
campaign.
And if you recall, it started with them talking about the electronics industry and others, and therefore, because these industries are suffering, etc., we must introduce some normalcy in the relationship.
Right.
That's how it started.
Correct.
But as far as talks are concerned, as you are saying, we are already talking at the joint secretary level. We've got WMCC, the commander level talks, etc.
All that is happening.
If it goes to a higher level, I see no harm in it, provided we are clear as to what we want, and we have already stated it.
Right.
So we can't go back on that.
Sure.
I don't see.
No.
And I don't think we will either. I mean, I don't see this government or any hints from this government that they're going to back off.
No.
So I see no harm in talking. In fact, at any level, I mean, higher the level, the better it is, because the decision maker there is only one.
There is only one, of course, and that is going to happen. I mean, that's what everybody's expectation is, that there is going to be a bilateral on the sidelines of Brics summit between Xi and Modi, Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping. If that happens, what should be India? I mean, India's stand now, you just mentioned, has been that unless all that status quo is restored and we go back to the earlier pre-April 2020 positions, we cannot reconcile to the other aspects of the relationship being normalized. If India continues to take that stand, what would be, in your assessment, Xi Jinping's reaction then?
See, the first thing, Nitin, is that Xi Jinping has avoided meeting Modi so far. Whether it is that he's underconfident or whether he feels guilty, I don't know, that's speculative.
Right.
But he has been avoiding. So, if there is a meeting, I would say that's a good step. I mean, at least it indicates that two countries are, behaving in a mature fashion, at least Chinese are. Now, I don't expect, as I said, our
Prime Minister Modi to reconcile.
I mean, he will stick by the position that he made. They are public statements.
Right.
Now, it is up to Xi Jinping as to how he plays it. He also either will say it or he will imply that, he's also got
Domestic
issue
pressures.
of face and domestic pressure. But I'm sure he can handle that. There are various ways he can do it. And in the Chinese system, even if he goes back to the April 2020 position, he doesn't have to announce it.
Right.
And the Chinese won't even know.
Exactly.
But, so I think he can make some steps, he can start making some concessions to indicate that he wants to move forward. Because don't forget, and I'm bringing in what may appear an extraneous point, but I think is very crucial. We have no trust in the Chinese now, after April 2020.
That has gone out of the window.
Out of the window. We can't trust them if they promise things also, even Xi Jinping.
Yes.
So, they'll have to do something substantive, which we can see, and then move forward.
Looks like that. And so there's the other talk in some very small strategic circles or think tanks that because the BRICS summit is happening in Russia and India's relationship with President Putin or Prime Minister Modi's relationship with President Putin is good, there could be a case that President Putin steps in and says, okay, you two reconcile, or you two start creating a thaw in the frozen relationship. Is there a role for President Putin in this?
Personally, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think we have a good relationship with Russia, with Putin, and I think with the Russian people. But our people, strategic experts, are also quite aware of the relationship between the Chinese and Russia, particularly Putin and Xi Jinping.
Yes.
It's a very deep relationship. And certainly we don't want to be, in a position where we are disadvantaged because of the interlocutor's position. So, and our position has always been that this is between two countries.
It's a bilateral issue.
bilateral. We don't want a third party.
Right.
Coming. I think we'll stick to that. So, I don't see Putin playing a role here. And, I don't see I mean, he might say that I brought you both together here, but that's about it.
That's about it, yeah. In fact, if at all, India is facilitating talks for him with Ukraine or with the Western world. I mean, Prime Minister Modi has now spoken to Zelensky, has spoken to Putin, and I am sure, and Putin has announced it, that there will be a bilateral between him and Prime Minister Modi in Kazan. So, actually, the more interesting part to see will be that meeting, I suppose.
Also that will be interesting. And don't forget, Modi is also, I won't use the word obliged, maybe that's diplomatically not
incorrect,
but incorrect. But at Putin's request, Modi has gone to this Brics summit.
Right.
I think that's important.
That's important, yeah. So, interesting possibilities as we go forward. But one final thought on the India-China relationship and the standoff that is now more than 4 years old, about to become 5 in this next 6 months. You have said this all along on our programs, elsewhere, your writings, that the Chinese have planned for India and they are not going to budge from that plan that they have. If that be the case, what should be India's priority then? By the time, build the strength, all that what Deng Xiaoping had said so many years ago. Should India be doing that, and is India doing it? Because that's something that the people, the viewers constantly want to know.
Okay, so you asked 3 things in one.
Yes.
Say, firstly, I don't think the Chinese end game has changed.
Okay.
Their objective has not changed.
Right.
And I say that on the basis of developments in the recent past.
Sure.
Just look at what I've also been saying that the Chinese want their own constituency, their own backyard, their own area. And they're looking at Asia as their backyard, or the Indo-Pacific, what you call. Look at the pressure that they're putting, military pressure and diplomatic pressure on Japan, on the Philippines, on Vietnam. So there's no backing off.
And Taiwan is always there.
Taiwan, no backing off. Yeah. Taiwan, I'd say it for the end, because since the third plenum, including at this 75th anniversary celebrations,
Right.
Taiwan has figured. In fact, at this speech by Xi Jinping the other day on the 1st
of
October, 10% of the speech was devoted to Taiwan.
Yeah.
And he never mentioned peaceful reunification or peace even once. So this is a change since last year.
So even within a year, he has changed now, hardened the
become
position.
a
hardened position.
So why should he change with India?
Yeah.
Secondly, look at what he is doing with India's neighbors. The agenda is very clear. And if I may misquote, Li Peng telling Deng Xiaoping during the Tiananmen,
Yes.
the spirit of attack is pointed at you. I mean, that's what's happening here.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, I see no change in the Chinese endgame. Their objectives are much larger.
And deeper.
They want to dominate this area and they want to surpass the United States. That is the...
And they don't want India as a competitor.
They don't want India as a competitor. Once they've dealt with us, then the coast is clear. So that is how I see it. As far as we are concerned, I think we are doing a good job on the borders, etc. I think we can do a better job, or rather a much better job in our ordnance factories and shipbuilding. I see no reason why we can't increase production, why we can't innovate and develop our own stuff instead of buying it from outside. But these are things, which require more
They are
detail.
actually, they are, and it's a longer discussion which we can do, because things have started happening there. It's been a decade of Make in India.
Yeah.
It's been spluttering, sometimes starting, sometimes stalling, but finally it is getting its act right.
But the mindset has to
Mindset
change.
So that has been the biggest obstacle.
Yes.
But again, there, because I watched that space a little more closely, I can say with confidence that the next 5 years, I think we'll be quite strong on the indigenization of many of these platforms and ammunition, something going forward. I think they're doing it systematically. But Chinese timetable, we don't know. If there is a timetable, I'm sure there is. But at the moment, it looks like there is some half a step that can be taken from both sides to at least start talking at a higher level, is what I feel. And I suppose Kazan, which I am hoping to be in, to just be there to watch what happens.
But that will be purely tactical.
It will be purely tactical.
Whatever movement happens, it will be purely tactical.
So, I mean, not long term at all. It's just that adjustment will have to be made there. But let's see how it goes. But thanks for these insights, and as usual, very forthright, and people call you hardliner, which I think is just being pragmatic, not hardliner, really. But thanks for this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do keep watching StratNews Global. You know where to reach us. Our social media platforms and handles are well known to you. Your feedback is important, so do send them, your comments, and we'll come back with more programs. Hopefully, I'll also be in Kazan in 2 weeks' time, or less than 2 weeks' time, and we'll bring some reports from there if that meeting happens between Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi. But for the moment, it's goodbye.